Hi friends, it's Dave from Southgate Travel Adventures. So today we're going to talk about transatlantic cruises, what our likes are and what our dislikes are. So let's get to it. So we are currently on about day 8 of a 15-day transatlantic. So we've settled in and we kind of have our preferences and non-preferences already figured out, really. So some of the things we like about transatlantic cruises, they have a very relaxed vibe. The clients are probably older compared to a regular cruise. Certainly not the cruise booze vibe at all. You don't get that. So basically it's an older clientele. When you do have families, they're actually families that are kind of traveling with the younger kids to give them experience. You don't see teenagers really on the cruise. You'll see, preschoolers and maybe elementary age kids that they're traveling to see the world. And I think that's fantastic. If you can take your kids and show them some of these countries, they'll learn a lot more than they will ever in school. When I was a traveling IT guy, we always took our kids as much as we could on the road. We didn't care if the teachers liked it or not. We knew they were going to learn a whole lot more traveling with us. So I think that's a positive thing, and I like to see that with the families. So really with transatlantics, you just kind of learn to settle in. You get to know the kind of flow of the ship. Your waiter knows your preferences, that kind of thing. And you learn the ship within 3 to 4 days. You've learned the ship if it's a new ship to you. And you're settle in and enjoy the cruise. So to me, that's the biggest plus. The other big plus, I guess, is cost. We're on a 15-day cruise, and it would cost probably the same as a 7-day cruise, a traditional cruise. Now, the downsides. Well, the downsides with the transatlantics is you are traveling in the off-season. So today we're on our way to Lisbon, and it's not that warm out on the deck. And I'm not sure what the forecast is in Lisbon, but I'm betting it's probably in the 60s Fahrenheit. So it's not going to be particularly warm because it's off-season. It's just starting the season in the Mediterranean. So you always got that off-season vibe going, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You don't have the crowds. When we arrive in the cruise port, you can walk around. There's time, there's space. That's a really good thing. So really, the biggest downside to us with the transatlantics is the fixed dining times. So if you're just traveling on, say, MSC and you're a Bella passenger, you don't have a lot of status to get the dining times you want. Your fixed dining times to me are a big downer. You're sitting at a table with other people, that's really fine. 15 nights, no matter how interesting the person is, you get to see the warts, and you may not want to be exposed to the warts for 15 days. And that is a really kind of a downer for us. We'd like to change our dining times, change the restaurant, whatever. Last night we went to an earlier dining time, waited in line, for a table that may or may not come out. Probably went down 15, 20 minutes early and didn't get a table. So to us, it was almost a lost hour waiting for a table. It didn't happen. So that's a downside. We don't want to go to a specialty restaurant. And that gets me back to the menus, I guess. The menus, in a lot of ways, what I call it, is stuck in the 70s. It's almost food like our parents ate. It doesn't, at home, we don't eat roast beef every night. We don't eat the big, heavy meals. We want lighter fare, even for dinner, and we want some selection. You really don't have that. You're getting big, heavy meals that, like I say, our parents ate out. But 15 nights of big, heavy meals isn't really our vibe. And even the specialty restaurants, I guess you could go to sushi. We don't like sushi, but you don't have the option, say, for a lighter Thai meal or something like that. It's just not there. So to me, that's a downside. That just might be an MSC thing. I don't know. But for us, we really find that as a downside. In some ways, and I've said this to my wife, in some ways, cruising is almost going to be what's happened to Vegas, where, with the Rat Pack in the 70s and that kind of stuff. And I can see if cruising doesn't evolve, it will be almost like that. It'll be your parents cruising or your grandparents cruising. I'm not sure how attractive the product is going to be to middle-aged people as they get money and they can afford to cruise more. I don't know. I think it's going to have to evolve. The current model is really, everything's an upsell, especially on MSC. So MSC, the base price is attractive, but to improve your customer experience, everything's an upsell. A good example is when we left North America, we had four good stations on the TV. You could come back and watch a little sports at night, get the news, get the weather, and move on. Now that we're in Europe, there's no TV channels. All you get is the MSC Future Cruise channel or something like that. We're all trying to sell you something, so you don't even get the news anymore, which to me is a big downer. So that it's the constant need to keep upselling that after a while it gets irritating. I'm a photographer, but I don't need the ship photographers interrupting my evening 10 times with the same question every night. That's very it's disturbing. And I think there's more photographers on this cruise than I've ever seen. They may be breaking in some new photographers, and they're all out in full force. I mean, you're falling over them on the way to dinner and the way out from dinner. So these are kind of downers, that kind of make the experience less. Well, let's talk about this Transatlantic in particular on MSC Meraviglia. We left in middle April of 2026. What we liked and didn't like about this particular experience. So on this cruise, compared to other MSC cruises, I would say the buffet is above average. We've had some MSC cruises and the buffet were just disasters, to be honest. This cruise has been pretty good. And when you learn a buffet, there's a process to learn a buffet. And so you'll go to exactly what you want. After a few days, you know what you're going to be interested in, where it is in a buffet. It doesn't seem to move around too much. So you can go right there, get in and get out. If it's a sail away, like we had a sail away from Ponta Delgada, and it was, I don't know, like 1 o'clock. We were really in the middle of the sailway. And as soon as, the kind of sailway's finished, everyone hits the buffet. You have to learn to either accept that because you know what's going to happen, or you just totally avoid it and go early or go late. You got to learn to work around the buffet, and then you'll enjoy the buffet a lot more. So we've learned that. We've learned at breakfast. Breakfast is a meal that you have, you have less variety. Most people just settle into a breakfast they like, and that's kind of what we've done. So you go to the one station, you got everything, you go grab your stuff, and you just enjoy your breakfast. You're not spending your time getting frustrated walking around looking for stuff. So that's probably a reasonable cruise tip. At least it works for us. On this particular cruise, the main dining room was, like I say, the fixed dining times were a downer. The menus aren't particularly good or reliable, so you can't anticipate what you're going to get. They'll have a meal and it's they call it fish, and you get it and it was swordfish, and it was almost like dry chicken. That was just not good. It's very hard to read the menu and understand what you're getting. Our waiter's been good, but he's really not great at recommending what we should be eating or what's good tonight. You don't get any of that. You get, here's what it is. It's been very, very hit or miss. So I would say that has been maybe frustrating. On average, probably 2/3 of our meals have been good in the dining room, and a third have been kind of a miss. And they say, yeah, you can order another entree, but that kind of screws up the flow for all your people at the table, and you just see your spouse is kind of waiting for you to finish and stuff like that. So typically you'll just eat it and go and say, well, it wasn't that great a meal, but we're off to the theater. The activities in general on MSC, and I think most of the cruise lines have been dumbed down. So unless you're willing to pay for other things, you're going to get trivia. You're going to get kind of rudimentary arts and crafts. They used to have other activities that we found more interesting. They used to do language classes, and probably they weren't popular. More people just wanted to go to trivia, but the language classes were important. You're traveling to kind of expand your horizons, and with some language skills, you can walk around the ports, and you can settle in a lot easier in some of these foreign countries. So to me, some of the misses are, they've done away with that. We did an MSC cruise in 2020 on the seaside, and they had language classes. We did Spanish and Portuguese, and to me, there was a lot of value there, but you can't do those anymore. So that's kind of a miss. The things they've decontented, you'd really like to say, man, like trivia, it's not my jam. So that's kind of what it is. Now, entertainment's interesting. On this cruise, the cruise director made the statement that there's no repeat entertainment packages, and that's pretty good for 15 nights. And I'll say they've been doing that. Now, I'm also a photographer that does a lot of concerts, and I know how they're doing it. Basically, what they've done is what used to be like a trio or a duo performing. There's no trios or duos on the ship. It's only like solo performers that are playing backing tracks. The cruise director on a Transatlantic, and now this is the only Transatlantic we have ever done, but they seem to be a lot less hands-on than if you're on a 4-day or a 7-day cruise. We used to have a guy, Dr. E, and he was energy, and you went to the event and he was front and center in the stage. This cruise director, he might make an announcement from the back in the sound room and, introduce the entertainer. So we don't have the cruise director experience we used to have. Maybe you don't want that on a Transatlantic anyway. Maybe you just want the guy in the back closet just making the announcements. But that was it. To me, that's a significant difference. That's all. Overall, you got to look at what you want out of the cruise. Now, we have people that kind of joined us in Halifax on this cruise. If you do one cruise a year or one trip a year, I'm not sure the Transatlantic is your thing, or if you have limited vacation, because you got some quiet days on sea, and that may not be your vibe. It's probably better off to do a 7-day cruise at the destination you want to be in, and that's it. I think that it really works. The Transatlantic really work if you're a retired couple, or you can work remotely and you're just looking for some inexpensive travel days. The value is incredible. You can shop around and you can get great value on Transatlantics, and I think that's really who they're going to work for. Would I do another one? Definitely. We love them. My wife really likes it. The biggest complaints for us, like I say, maybe the fixed dining times. We'd really like more flexibility in that. Of course, you always got the option to go to a specialty restaurants. That's just not our jam. We've already paid for a meal. We're not going to pay another $100 or $200 to go to specialty restaurants. So that's just it. So overall, we're happy with the experience, and we'll do them again. Anyway, if what are your opinions on Transatlantics, let me know in the comments. I'm always curious. And if you have any cruise hacks that make your life more enjoyable for Transatlantics, let me know. I'm really curious in seeing that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one, actually, which is coming up with a port tour of Lisbon. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.